Hi guys, Lindsay Weiser here. I'm the marketing manager at Racksquared Data Centers, and we have another great video for you. Today, I'm going to have our general manager talk about different disaster recovery options around your IBM Power.
Hi everyone, I'm Jason Hardy, the general manager at Racksquared Data Centers. What I'm going to talk about today is disaster recovery options for your IBM Power. We've got a number of solutions in place for customers, and where we're not a custom shop, we do a lot of customization of solutions to meet customer specific business needs. What we find is, there are no two IT organizations that are identical. They can be using the same technologies, but they've implemented them different. They have different business requirements. First off, ask yourself, where do you want your production? Do you want your production on site? In which case, you're just looking for another location for disaster recovery. In that scenario, you'd have production at your site, disaster recovery at our site. The next scenario would be that you want your production in the cloud, that maybe you don't have an ideal environment for hosting a server. You're not comfortable that your infrastructure is going to be up and running all the time, so you want to know production will always be up and running. You put that in the cloud and you use your location as a disaster recovery. So the likelihood that you need your location for DR is very small, but you've got that infrastructure there. So you put the production in Columbus, Ohio in our data center. The other option is, I don't want any of that hardware and infrastructure on my location. I want you to take it over for me, Racksquared. In that situation, we will host your production in our primary data center and your disaster recovery in our secondary location. So those are a few just scenarios to think about of where do I want things. From there, you need to think about what is your recovery point objective, and if you're not familiar with that, that is how much data can I afford to lose in a disaster. Your recovery time objective, how long can I afford for my infrastructure to be down, and how much does it cost when it's down? So you want to understand those parameters. We've got a third one that we've recently coined that is recovery cost objective, and what that is, that's a calculation that says, how much am I willing to spend to ensure I don't lose this? So somewhere there's a balance point that says, it doesn't make sense to spend, $1 million to protect 100,000. Whatever your numbers are, you've got to do the math and make that decision. But those are three areas that you need to consider. As you think those through, we then start looking at what is the right solution for you. One of the most basic solutions we offer is reserved infrastructure. And what reserved infrastructure is we are just guaranteeing you that we will have space on our server available to you if you need it. So if you are, let's just assume you use a full processor, 256 megabytes of memory, and a terabyte of storage. You let us know that in a disaster, you want to be able to call up and have those resources available. You pay for that reservation. It is reserved for you, and when you need it, you call up. We start the process then of recovering you. You're going to have to get us your data. We're going to have to build the system. It's going to take a little bit of time. So from a recovery time objective, it's going to take a little bit longer. From a recovery cost objective, it's going to be a low-cost option. From a recovery point objective, our solution doesn't really play into that data storage and how much data you lose. So it depends what's going on at your location and what your disaster is on how much data you have lost. But that is the basic level, a reservation for infrastructure. We do that for a lot of customers, really simple to put in place, and kind of a low-cost insurance program. The next step up is what we call our warm configuration. And what that is you are going to pay for us to configure a system for you. So the system will be up and running, but it will have a minimum config. Let's stick with your config of a full processor, 256 megabytes of storage, or not storage, memory. We're going to configure that box with 1/10 of a processor and 16 megabyte of storage. Not storage, I keep saying that, memory. In the event of a disaster, you're going to call us and say, I need full production resources. And we will bump you up to that full processor, bump you up to that 256 that you have reserved. So again, we're guaranteeing that that is available to you. The server's running, the resources are there, Now you need to get us the data. So you're going to send us, most likely, depending on the nature of your disaster, the latest Save 21 you have. You're going to get that to us and we're going to restore onto that server. So as you think about those different objectives we talked about, recovery point, your data is only going to be as good as your last backup. And again, depends what kind of backup system and what kind of disaster you've got and how much data you've lost. The recovery time, we've got the system up and running. We just have to up the resources, which is pretty simple, but then we're going to recover your tape. And depending on how much data you've got will dictate how long that takes. Faster than a reservation, but not the fastest option. Recovery cost objective, this comes in kind of middle of the road in terms of cost. So that's option number 2. Option number 3 is a full HA solution. In this case, we're going to do the same thing as the warm config. We're going to build this box. It's going to be fully configured. We're going to have some resources running, and we're going to have additional resources available so we can turn it up when needed. The big difference here, though, is instead of you sending us a Save 21, we will have been running replication software between you and us all the time. So we tend to use Rocket iCluster, and basically it's going to keep those two boxes in sync. So it's an HA solution with a recovery time of, let's say that this happens, middle of the day, there's resources here, you're probably looking at a recovery time objective of 60 minutes. Middle of the night, it's going to take a little bit more time to get somebody up and moving, but you're still talking 90 minutes, 2 hours at the most. So it's a very, very quick recovery. You've now stepped up in price, so your recovery point objective is very low because you're replicating data to us. Your recovery time objective is also very low because the server's running. All we have to do is increase resources. Your recovery cost objective, your price has gone up. Because you want that quick recovery, the price is going to go up some, but still a very viable option for some customers. The cost goes up, but if the cost of being down is high enough, it offsets it. The last option we have is a data backup solution that involves just replicating your data to us in a regular fashion. So what we tend to use there is cybernetics. We would install a cybernetics VTL at your location. You would purchase that. It would run at your location, and your data would be replicated to a cybernetics at our location. So in that scenario, we can really mix that with either a warm config, really with the warm config option, not the hot. The hot and the high availability, we do that with Rocket iCluster. But with cybernetics, you're going to be passing a tape over to us, and we will have data on site. It may not be, or it won't be as current as replication, but it's going to be pretty current. Typically, it's only a day or two out, depending on what your backup schedule is. So what we would do with the cybernetics situation is when you call with a disaster, we're going to recover from that cybernetics, that data, to some resources. And you can combine that cybernetics with reserved infrastructure, with warm. It's up to you, how quickly you want that hardware to be available. But what this gives you is a number of options for how you can recover. One of the key things about this is if we're going to do this, we want to get networking in place with you up front, and we want to do some testing. Your DR program, if you're not testing, a lot of companies feel really good that they've got a DR location, but they haven't tested it, and when things go sideways and they need DR, suddenly they're scrambling because they've never gone through this exercise. So, part of what we offer as our DR solution is doing that test, and it may be a one-time test and you're happy. What we recommend is do it once a year. Things are going to change within your environment, and you want to make sure that you've got the latest, greatest in place. So that's a number of solutions that we've got available for disaster recovery for your IBM Power that is much less expensive than you having to go out and purchase another device, host it somewhere, and fully manage your own DR. So if any of that sounds of interest or you'd like to just learn more, hit our website, contact us, and let's schedule some time to talk.
Well, I hope that video was really helpful, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment, and we'll see you next time.